David and Maria had been married for almost 20 years, yet lately their home felt quieter than it ever had before. The walls of their small house were still filled with photographs of happier days, wedding pictures, family vacations, and moments that once made them laugh together. But those memories now seemed like distant echoes of a life that had slowly faded. Life had become routine. David spent most of his time working long hours to provide for the family, while Maria carried the weight of managing the home and caring for their teenage daughter, Sophia. They still cared about each other, but somewhere along the years, the warmth between them had grown cold. Their conversations had become short and practical, and their laughter had become rare. One evening, after another quiet dinner where both of them barely spoke, Maria looked at David and gently said, "Do you remember the last time we truly talked?" David paused, unsure how to answer. He wanted to say that life had simply been busy, that responsibilities had piled up, but deep down he knew that wasn't the whole truth. They had stopped trying. They had stopped listening. And slowly, they had begun living beside each other instead of with each other. A few weeks later, their daughter Sophia insisted they take a short vacation together before she left for university. At first, David resisted, saying work was too important to leave behind, but Maria quietly agreed with Sophia. She knew that if something didn't change soon, the distance between her and David might become permanent. So they packed their bags and traveled to a small countryside town where time seemed to move slower and the air carried a peaceful silence. On their second day there, while sitting at a small cafe, they noticed a young couple sitting nearby. The young man and woman laughed easily together, sharing stories and holding hands as if the world around them didn't exist. Maria couldn't help but smile as she watched them, remembering the days when she and David had once looked exactly like that. The young couple soon introduced themselves as Ethan and Lily. They were newly married, full of dreams and hope, and their energy was contagious. Before long, both couples were sharing stories over coffee. Ethan talked about how he worked 2 jobs just to support their new life, while Lily shared how she believed love meant standing beside someone even when life became difficult. David listened quietly, but something inside him stirred. Ethan spoke about Lily with such admiration that it reminded David of how he once used to speak about Maria. Years ago, he had been proud to call her his wife, proud of her kindness and strength. Somewhere along the years, that pride had been buried beneath stress and routine. As the days passed, the 2 couples spent more time together. They walked through quiet fields, watched sunsets by the lake, and talked about life. Ethan and Lily often spoke openly about their fears and dreams, something David and Maria realized they'd stopped doing long ago. One evening, while walking back to their hotel, Maria softly said, "They remind me of us, the way we used to be." David felt a deep sadness hearing those words, because he knew she was right. He had allowed work, pressure, and tiredness to create a wall between them. But what hurt him the most was realizing that Maria had been quietly carrying that loneliness for years. The next morning brought an unexpected moment. While having breakfast, Lily shared something very personal. She explained that before marrying Ethan, she had once nearly ended their relationship because she misunderstood something he had done. She thought he had betrayed her trust, and the pain nearly destroyed their love. But later she discovered that the truth was different. Ethan had never betrayed her. He had simply been helping a friend through a difficult situation. Lily looked at Maria and gently said, "Sometimes we think someone has hurt us, when the truth is much deeper. But love means having the courage to talk, to forgive, and to understand." Those words struck Maria's heart. For years she had quietly believed that David no longer cared about her the way he once had. His long hours, his silence, and his emotional distance had slowly convinced her that their love was fading. But hearing Lily's story made her wonder if she had also misunderstood some things. Later that afternoon, Maria decided to speak honestly with David for the first time in a long while. Sitting beside the lake, she told him how lonely she had felt over the years. Her voice trembled as she admitted that she had sometimes feared their marriage was slowly breaking apart. David listened carefully, his heart heavy with regret. He explained that he had never stopped loving her. The long hours at work were not because he wanted to escape home, but because he had been trying to secure a better future for their daughter and their family. In doing so, however, he had unknowingly neglected the very relationship that meant the most to him. Tears filled Maria's eyes as she realized how much they had both suffered silently. Neither of them had been unfaithful in the way people usually imagine infidelity. Instead, their true mistake had been emotional distance, the quiet neglect of the love that once connected them so deeply. David reached for her hand, something he had not done in a long time. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I thought providing for our family was the best way to show love. But I forgot that love also means being present." Maria squeezed his hand, her heart finally feeling heard. "And I should have spoken sooner instead of letting the silence grow." Over the next few days, something slowly began to change between them. They started talking again, not about bills or schedules, but about memories, dreams, and even their fears about the future. The younger couple, Ethan and Lily, unknowingly became a mirror that showed them what love could look like when two people truly chose each other every day. One evening, as they all sat together watching the sunset paint the sky in warm colors, Ethan shared a simple thought. "Love doesn't stay strong on its own," he said. "It needs patience, honesty, and care every day. Otherwise, even the strongest relationship can slowly drift apart." Those words stayed with David and Maria long after the vacation ended. When they returned home, life did not magically become perfect. David still had work responsibilities, and Maria still managed the home. But something inside them had shifted. They began making small but meaningful efforts, sharing evening walks, listening more carefully, and reminding each other that their relationship mattered just as much as their responsibilities. Months later, their daughter Sophia noticed the change as well. One evening she smiled and said, "You two laugh together more now." David and Maria looked at each other, realizing that their daughter had quietly witnessed both the distance and the healing of their marriage. Sometimes, life doesn't break relationships with dramatic events. Sometimes it is the quiet neglect, the unspoken fears, and the forgotten conversations that slowly create distance between two hearts. But just as love can fade through silence, it can also be rebuilt through honesty, patience, and understanding. Meeting Ethan and Lily had not magically fixed David and Maria's marriage. What it had done was remind them of something they had almost forgotten, that love is not only a feeling that exists in the beginning, but a choice that must be made again and again throughout life. Years later, David and Maria would still remember that quiet countryside trip. Not because of the beautiful scenery or the peaceful town, but because it was the moment they realized their marriage was worth saving. And sometimes, the most powerful lesson about love does not come from grand speeches or perfect moments. Sometimes it comes from simply watching two people who remind us of the love we once had and the love we still have the chance to protect. Because true faithfulness in marriage is not only about avoiding betrayal. It is about protecting the bond between two hearts, even when life becomes difficult. It is about choosing patience over pride, conversation over silence, and understanding over assumptions. And in the end, David and Maria learned that love does not disappear with time. It simply waits for two people to remember why they chose each other in the first place.